Hi, I'm Carolina, your podcast host and expert womb healer. Over the past 5 years, I've served over 500 women to remove physical blockages in their bodies. We achieve this with Reiki. I believe healing doesn't have to be done alone, nor should it be. You will hear stories of healing, methods to heal with, and guest speakers covering taboo topics you won't hear anywhere else. Let's continue this journey of womb healing together. Hi, I'm Caroline, your podcast host and Reiki womb healer. And today we are going to be talking about something I think that is so important for every woman to know. So no matter if you're postpartum, you're pregnant, or you're getting ready to prepare for birth, or you're in your fertility journey trying to conceive your baby, every woman needs to know about money. So today's episode, all women and mothers need to know about money and how to get it with Suze Maclaine Pont. Suze, thank you for calling in today and taking the time out of your busy schedule to meet with us.
I'm so happy to be here, Caroline.
I'm so grateful for you. When I saw your picture online, I was like, I need her on my podcast. You have such an amazing energy about you. And I just had loved everything that I had read about you. Can you share with our listeners a little bit about you? Where are you in the world and how do you serve the world? Because I think that your background is so unique to how other people and other people in the online space, you have a very special background related to money.
Yes. Thank you so much, Carolina. Yeah. So I am in the Netherlands, which is in Europe, in the northwest part of Europe. I live there about an hour east of Amsterdam. I grew up in North Carolina, but I am Dutch and I live here. And I live here together with my husband and two teenage kids of 15 and 16 and a dog and cats and chicken. And I have my own seminar room here because today I am a trauma therapist and a business coach. Well, basically I teach them how to set up a business around your voice and around what it is that you set out to do in this world. But I didn't start that way. I started out as a shipbuilder, as a shipbuilding engineer.
Wait, and hold the boat. Literally quite the pun intended there. You were a shipbuilder?
Yes.
Wow, how did I not know this? That's fucking incredible.
Yeah, so when I was 18, I had to choose some kind of topic, and I was literally interested in everything between astronomy, English literature, shipbuilding, and law, and everything in between. I just couldn't choose because everything I see or hear about, I want to know in depth.
So I'm in awe of you right now.
Well, shipbuilding was something I couldn't study later on in my own spare time. So that's why I thought, you know what, let's do that in a university degree. And also it was a kind of a wise choice, right? My parents said, don't go to school. Don't try music. I played the violin. Don't even think about it. There's no money in that, stuff like that. So I thought, you know what, let's do something that I absolutely love. I absolutely love ships. But what I loved about those projects is that actually all these people had to work together and had to show up from their best place. And I love that because innovations are driven by passion and by people doing something that nobody knows how to do yet. So I came in a world where people were forced or asked or required to do something that they didn't have a lot of certainty or security around. And that was something I really loved because then behind the scenes of these projects, I would talk to all these people and I would hear them, hear their passion, hear why they were joining this project. But what really struck me is that once they were in a project, that passion energy would disappear again. And they would be like, okay, but now everybody's watching. Now I have to be rational, strategic, whatever. And I wondered why? Why are we not just showing up from that great place inside ourselves? Why is it that the moment that we think about building our life or building our business or building a project like this, as soon as other people are involved, we feel responsible. We feel that we need to take care of things. We feel that we can't just be us because that would never be enough. And that was the same split that I had because I felt safe on a ship, but I didn't feel safe on shore. And that was something that really got me curious to why are we being so stupid? Why is it not normal that we just show up the way we are from the place that we love and with our passion? Isn't that what life should be about? Now, I didn't know how to do it, but that's where I started to become interested in people more than in ships and in psychology. And I did 30 different kinds of coaching certifications and eventually became a trauma therapist because I just wanted to get to the bottom of it. And I wanted to understand what is really holding us back from just simply creating the life that we were meant to create.
So you grew up, it was a tough upbringing, but full of love. And then from there, you went into shipbuilding. And from shipbuilding, you learned your passion for ships, but also learning that you have this great ability to be who you are in that world. Then you went on to ship innovation projects. So then you could be living your dream half of the year and then the other half supporting it. And then you went on to discover that you love people and wanted to come. So you became a trauma certified therapist. And now that's what you are. And that's what makes you different than other money teachers in the world. So let's dive into the money part because our listeners, I bet you are biting at the bit. So what is a money relationship and what should that look like? When people have a relationship with money, what should that look like? Or what can it look like?
It's actually interesting because what we see around us and what we hear a lot of people think that it looks like is that if we have a great relationship with money, that means that we have a lot of it. So we're all born and raised in high school to think, you know what, you should be successful, you should earn a lot of money, you should have security, and you should know how to do all of this. But the interesting thing is what we're trained to think is that money will actually create a great life for us. And if we have enough money and we're intelligent enough to make a lot of money, then we'll be okay. The interesting thing is money is just a thing that we use to trade. That's all it is. It's not like a strawberry or mango or something that is in nature and that we can get, right? We actually created it ourselves, and not even that long ago, because our human DNA is 6 million years old. But the root of money, or the root of exchanging goods so that we could trade easier, is only about 20,000 years old. So we created it. So it's not like there is something out there that if we accumulate enough, then we'll be safe, because it's just an agreement that if you do something for me, then I'll give you something in return. But in a society of thousands of people, that's pretty hard to do. So if you do something for me and I don't want what you can do in return, you know what? You'll give me money and then I can choose whatever it is that I like best in return. That's all money is. So then if we look at it from that point, a relationship with money basically just comes down to actually helping somebody with something that they really need and receiving and accepting something in exchange for that. That's all it is.
So you're talking about money as being an exchange.
Yes.
I was thinking more of when I think about a money relationship, I think of it more as like a relationship you might have with another person.
Mm-hmm.
Like, how do you speak of it? Yeah, like how you speak of it, how you feel about it. What are you doing to nurture it? What are you doing to learn more about it? How much time are you dedicating to it, towards it? A quite literal sense of it.
Oh, I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. Because the thing is, if we get back to, hey, it's just a means of exchange, then what we can easily start to see is that the only way we can ever accumulate money is by treating other people really well. That is the only thing we can do. Even if we go to the stock market or to buying and selling houses or something, or real estate, it all has to do with an exchange of people. So then money actually is the carrier of how we relate to people. So then For instance, this is something big I discovered. I've lost everything in my life 4 times. And through those experiences, one of the things I learned is that it's actually really easy to come back on that and to turn your life around. I thought I was the kind of person who was always losing everything until I realized, well, I'm easy at losing things, but I'm also easy at building them back. And then I thought, why do we make it so complicated? And then I realized what we do is we think that we need money in order to build a life. But what I realized is if we just build our life and we build beautiful relationship with people, money comes in. Now, if we look at it that way, what we need to realize is that our relationship with money is just as our only way to get money is by building great relationships with people. Our relationship with money is actually showing us how we do that. So for instance, I'm very well known to tell people, you know what, show me your relationship with money and it can show you exactly what your relationships look like in the rest of your life and how you treat your work, how you treat your partners, because the relationship you have with money is actually the carrier of how you relate in the world. Now, that could be pretty painful.
Can you say that again?
Is actually a carrier or a very easy way to see how you relate with the people around you and with your work and how much space you allow yourself on this planet.
Relationship you have with money is an indicator of how you relate to others and how much space you allow yourself in this world.
Yes.
Now that's a quote. So what is the root of the money relationship for people?
So
what is the core?
The core of our money relationship has everything to do with the relationship we have built with life from before we were 7. And the interesting thing is, before we're 7, we didn't even handle money, right? Well, I didn't. And I hope for certain that our listeners didn't have to deal with money before they were 7.
And I let my 5-year-old handle money. I let him pay for things. I let him, because for me, I grew up super poor and I want him to know that it's a tool. And we say things like every time we swipe our debit card, we're like, there's more where that came from.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. Yeah.
It's really important for me because I have worked so hard on my scarcity mindset that he understands that, like, if we don't have the money at this moment, that it's coming or that we're going to save up for it. It's a yet. It's yet. It doesn't mean that we can't ever have it. It just means yet. And then the waiting is actually part of the fun. The saving is part of the fun. It's not the possession of it, but also the joy of satisfaction of having to work hard for it. He also likes receipts. He likes numbers. So I always ask the cashier to hand him the receipt and he holds on to it. He never loses a receipt. He has like a little money purse that he puts all his receipts in next to his car seat. It's really interesting to see how he enjoys money at 5.5 versus like me as a 39-year-old self. It's so funny to see as a parent, because you might relate it to as much trauma that I've overcome, as much trauma that I have healed. I hear my mother-in-law say, Ollie reminds me so much of Ryan when he was his age. But when I look at my son, he doesn't remind me of my 5-year-old self. He reminds me of myself now. It's really wild. It's really wild because there's I don't see much of my child self in him. I see my adult healed self with him. And I was like, that was like a revelation I think I had last week. I was talking with a friend and I was like, I think that when you do trauma work and you do a lot of different, if you are very intentional about your healing, it definitely impacts positively, of course, in all areas of your life, but especially in your parenting. So
absolutely. Yeah.
I was a very quiet 5-year-old. I was a very reserved, scared 5-year-old because quiet meant I was safe. It was a safer way of me being.
Yeah.
My 5-year-old is not quiet. He's boisterous. He is confident. he feels secure. Some people say, oh, he's sassy. I was like, no, that's confidence. That's assertiveness. That's him finding his voice. And he is also very well-mannered and polite and respectful. But he is a person that speaks his voice. It's really interesting to have seen that kind of turnaround, because there are things that he does. But when I asked my mom that question, she goes, yeah, I mean, he looks a little bit like you, but like he does things that he doesn't remind me of you when you were little. So it's really wild that there's some things that he does with my husband's. And then, so these 0 to 7, I told my husband, I was like, we got to hit this home run. We got to get this, because this matters for the rest of his life. Because I have learned that in my own Reiki practice, 0 to 7 is a lot of the undoing that I'm doing in the healing work. So 0 to 7 matters so much.
Very true. Very, very true. Yet, from 0 to 7, we learn how we're okay in this world on very different levels. So how we can actually be welcome and be present here, how we're safe with our needs, how we're safe to relate to other people, how we're safe to experiment with our own willpower and how we can create things, how we're safe to express ourselves fully, and how we're safe to make mistakes and to feel vulnerable and to actually ask for support. All these different things we learn from 0 to 7, and all the trauma that we build up in these ages is something that we project onto everything in life, onto our relationships, but also onto our relationship with money.
With money.
So then what we see is, if I look at somebody's relationship with money with them, I can point out where things have gone wrong in their life, and we can heal that. So for instance,
that's really a great gift. I've never met anyone that has been able to, like, I never thought about that. Let's look at your money relationship. It's usually the other way around.
Yes.
Let's look at everything else, and then like they never get to the money part. But let's start with the money part and like, what is this mirroring, and where it goes straight there.
Exactly.
That's really clever. I like that. It's much quicker and easier. It's a really strategic way of healing.
It is, because what I believe is
people want more money. They want more money to pay for fertility treatment. They want more money for groceries.
Exactly.
Like, they need more money for basic things. And a lot of people in the online space is like, oh yeah, they just, like push this high ticket, and like people just want to have the basic things. They want a house. They want food. They don't want to worry about if their debit card's going to pass through the grocery market. Like, am I going to have enough? I don't know how much is in there. I'm too scared to even look at the balance.
Exactly.
I hope this works out, Yeah. Yeah. What a great way to do it. I like that a lot.
I think if we heal our bank account in the amount that's in there, that we can heal our life.
Oh, I learned a long time ago, more money help, but it doesn't change the behaviors or habits.
Exactly.
So more money actually equals probably larger problems. It's just larger scale problems. So if you have a spending problem and not a balanced act of saving enough or budgeting, you don't have those correct behaviors, then basically you're just going to be in just larger scale problems.
Yes. Yeah. And the safer you feel around receiving money, nurturing yourself, dealing with your own needs, feeling welcome here, not feeling dependent on other people's opinions, the more safe you feel there, the easier it is if you lose everything to build it back. Because it's so hard, because we feel so dependent on money. Because
so true.
If we have 5 million in the bank, then we won't have to look at all that trauma. But I think that's actually not the right way around.
Some people are not ready to heal yet. And I think that that's okay. I think it's when they are ready to heal, then that's when the transformation, or it's not necessarily when they're ready, but maybe sometimes when they need to.
Exactly.
Depending on the thing, sometimes I can be a little bit of a procrastinator in my own healing. Like, there are certain things I have struggled with, but when it came, like, it reared its ugly head in like my family, meaning like I got triggered with my son. There's nothing I won't do for my son. So that's indicative of like me and my inner child of prioritizing myself. I've learned to always put people above me, but I will always, okay, so this behavior or whatever needed to be fixed within me was showing up or complicating my relationship with my child. I need to heal that in order to be a better parent. Okay, then I'll do it. But it wasn't necessarily being from the place of nurturing myself, but it was for the love of my child. So it came out of a need. So I think that sometimes if we look at like why we need to do something is also equally important as much as what we need to do, because the why, and this might be kind of controversial, but I think the why, if it's good enough to get the person started moving in the direction that they're wanting to go or they need to go, and it's empowered enough, that's good enough. So for the sake of me, I need to heal my family. I think it was probably my temper. People are like, you have a temper? Trust me, I do. If you're triggered, you're sleep deprived, you're running off of coffee.
Well, you get a temper then. Yeah.
Oh, you get a temper. You get unhinged and short fused real quick. And if it's like, I get overstimulated by noise very easily. So we can only have one noise in the house at a time. Yeah. And I don't know what that's indicative of, but I just know that like I need to have low noise. So like it's one toy or no TV, no dishwasher. It's like one thing. I just know that controlling or grounding so that my temper is not so escalated. But I'm doing that because I love my kid and I want him to not have a bad mom or a bad mom in the moment. That's good enough for me. I should be loving myself enough that I want to do that for me. But really, that's not where I'm at in my phase. So know your why. And sometimes your why is not about you. And that's okay. That's okay. And people don't say that. It's like, maybe sometimes like I'm changing behavior I not necessarily know, but you know why, but I'm improving my listening skills because my husband says he doesn't feel heard enough. Well, I'm just going to sit here and be silent. Do I understand really what I'm doing? No, but I also know I'm preserving my marriage in response to making a loving action. I don't really understand all the pieces of what he was saying, but I'm just going to sit here and act like he's heard. But, and sometimes that's good enough. And I think that needs to be told too. Like everything comes in pieces.
I fully agree. Yeah. The thing is, when I got pregnant with my oldest son, my boyfriend who I then had left me when I was 8 weeks pregnant. So all of a sudden I was a single mom with my own business. And I was 30 years old. I only had my business for 5 years. And again, I was losing everything. And I was really happy that I was pregnant. But all my childhood trauma surfaced. I didn't even have a clue of what was going on inside of me. I was all alone. I didn't have a lot of support around me, or I did have loving people. I didn't have a lot of people who really understood what was going on in my life. And I had to be a mom and I was all alone. So sometimes we deal with things by suppressing them, just as you say, right? I cannot deal with that noise. Well, maybe I can teach you to deal with better noise handling. That's great. But right now, we also need to suppress certain things so that we can actually stay present. And there is always that balance as well. Yeah, sometimes it's not about us. Sometimes it's about trying 100%. To be a kind of a decent mom and deal with all these things. But I often think my kids are now 15 and 16, and I apologize to them every day saying, you know what? I think this is also motherhood. In hindsight, we know what we should have done. And
I actively apologize to my 5-year-old, and I also will actively argue in front of him with my spouse. We do it in a healthy way because I think it's important for him to see conflict.
I agree. Yeah.
I think know
how you can healthily deal with that.
Conflict, and we don't raise our voices when we argue. We don't do name calling, but those are also like healthy boundaries we had established while we were dating. And also we've gone through a shit ton of marriage conferences. Like I had to learn how to be a good wife. I knew how to get divorced because I saw that. But like I had to actively learn how to be a good spouse. And in those marriage conferences, I don't agree with all the things in the marriage conferences, meaning like I believe in who you choose to love is who you love. I believe in gay marriage, all of those things. So now we're very selective of where we go, but there is a lot of principles on like how to treat each other with respect. It's important to have differences, but how do you actively choose them? I had learned that it's not necessarily for us in this season of life about controlling your temper or anything. It's more about making sure each other are being seen,
Exactly.
and then focusing on good conflict resolution. If I have good conflict resolution, a lot of the other mess and noise goes away.
I agree.
I was actively talking about this with my partner, with my husband, and I said, that's the missing piece. I said, that's the missing piece in all of this. It wasn't my temper. It was not all my physical needs were being met, meaning sleep, food, rest, water. But I was like, conflict resolution. If I can teach that to my son, he'll be light years ahead, because it's not about, do we want no bullying? Do we want all of that? But like, if I can equip him with, because all of that's conflict, but if I can equip him with solutions and tools in conflict resolution and feel confident in his ability to maneuver those things, then he's a fucking ninja.
Yeah.
That's a boss move. That's a flex.
And then there's one extra element. And
Tell me.
That's actually what our relationship with money can enhance in that. My husband and I met when I was 8 months pregnant, so we didn't have an easy start. We had a baby after 30 days.
Wow. That's a story.
That's a whole story. We could do an entire podcast about that. But that's a really interesting story. But the interesting thing is, after a year and a half of being together, we had 2 kids and we moved to the other side of the country. So basically that is enough recipe for divorce, if anything, right?
Oh, wow. Yeah. It's a lot of stress.
Yeah. There was a lot of stress going on between us. And we went to all the marriage counselors available. We did Tantra together. We did all kinds of really beautiful, really helpful things, diving up our traumas of our past and stuff like that. But we still couldn't resolve that last part of conflict. There was always this point of, we agreed to not go there. And that can be fine. But there was this, this thing. And actually opening up our conversations about what our relationship with money was really about, given that there's trauma behind that from our parents from before we were 7, that actually really opened up. And what that did was not just the conflict resolution that you were talking about, even though I agree we absolutely need that, but it was allowing ourselves to feel all the feelings behind it while
that's so true.
Is watching. So in order
it's hard, especially for Americans, but also very hard for men, because they're taught not to feel.
Yeah, absolutely.
You're not a man if you're crying. You're not a man if you are feeling too much, or if you're emotional. You're not masculine or machisto. I'm Hispanic. So like, if you're not macho enough, are you a man? So,
but then for women, we're allowed to feel, but then we're being taught often that we can feel and then have other people comfort us. But we're not taught to actually create a holding space for our feelings so that they can really resolve. So we can allow other people to dry our tears, but can we feel underneath those tears into the heart of the issue so that we can actually emerge from our soul space instead of from a comfort space? Does that make sense?
That is something I didn't learn until my 30s. No. And that was after seeing a shaman, a hypnosis therapist, going through all these hundreds of hours of Reiki training. Like, seriously, that was like a lot. And that was thousands of dollars later.
Yeah, but a lifetime of happiness, right?
It is true, though. If I hadn't gone through all of that, though, I wouldn't be. I'm really happy with the kind of parent I am. I don't think that I could be the parent I am now if I wasn't operating from a soul space.
Yeah.
So essentially, to further and better your relationship with money is you need to be able to feel your emotions, but also connect to your soul, essentially.
Exactly.
So you can start to feel the emotions as they come up, start to identify what those emotions are, and then find a way to release them.
Yes.
Like, so that's what you believe then from 0 to 7 years old. But what do you, as an adult self, whatever age you are now, what do you believe money to be true? I used to believe money used to call. When I did some money exercises last year on my money mindset and my money relationship, I unconsciously believed money caused conflict.
Exactly. And that's
every time that there was money, because when I was young, my mom had custody of me from 0 to 16. And then at 16 to 18, I went to live with my dad. There was always a child custody battle going on and child support. So there was not enough money, or he was arguing that he had to pay the money, or she was on welfare to pay for money because he refused to pay. And there was like all of this because I existed. Someone has to pay for me, but nobody wanted to take accountability for me. So like I learned, if there's money, that means there's fighting. That means there's conflict. And that just means that money is misery.
Yes.
So as an adult, for me, I replace that as money provides me options.
Yes.
And I believe options give you opportunities for greater happiness. And that's what I replace it with. If you have money, you have options. If you have options, you have opportunities for greater happiness.
Yes.
Because there's more than one way to do something.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. So the first thing I do with people is look at their relationship with money is actually really pointing towards, just like your example, just like you said, often there is a hidden thing going on underneath that, but just knowing it isn't enough. So I really help people heal those things, because most coaches will teach you to let it go. And that's great. We actually need to embrace it and love everything that happened in our past.
I had to actually like think about it. I had to say, okay, what do I believe about money? What is the first time? What's my first memory about money? What was the situation? Who were the relationships? And then also when I was like remembering that, what came up for me in my physical body, like in my chest space, in my heart chakra. And like, then I had to release that. Like yes. I had to like process that memory, and like, I had to take time to like de-trigger it.
Exactly. Yeah.
So I don't believe like you breathe and let it go. You have to actively do some kind of exercise or talk it out so that you can move to, for me, it's de-triggering means to move to a place of neutrality. I have a very controversial opinion about forgiveness. I don't necessarily think forgiveness sometimes is to be had. It's a very individual, personal thing. Sometimes there are certain situations in my life that I will just never forgive. I'm not going to hold on to that story. That's a choice. But I am also moved to a place as much as I can in neutrality around a certain life event. So for me, that's how I had to get to it. And then I'm like, before I could even get to, okay, what are my new beliefs about money? How am I replacing this? So be careful with if anyone says, release and let go, love and light. No.
That makes absolutely no sense at all.
Exactly.
Yeah, I agree. And forgiveness is a process. And the thing is, it's not always about forgiving the other person. It's about actually seeing that we're all human and that nobody probably intended to hurt you, but didn't have any other option. That doesn't mean you have to make okay what happened, because a lot of things that happen are not okay. But it does mean that you have to be able to step out of it. And that's a very different thing.
So a lot of my listeners are trying to conceive. The need is basic. They want more money for IVF, IUI, fertility treatments. So how do they get more of it?
What I would say is to actually embrace who they are, look at their relationship with money and with why they want it. It's not just but I want these treatments. It's but what do these treatments really mean for me? What is really going on here? Why is this so important for me? And really embrace that, and really embrace the fact that you need it so that you can actually start opening up to receive it. Now, there is more to be said about that.
Yeah. I'm asking you to answer your entire practice of so many years in one question in under a minute. That's pretty wild. So how can people find you? How can people access you? How can they work with you? How can they communicate with you?
So we have at SuzeMaclainePont.com. That's my website. And what you will find there is something called the Money Miracles course. And that is a course that opens up 4 times a year. The doors are opening in November, and the course starts in January, beginning of January. What we do there is that we really look at all these different stages of your childhood, and we heal your relationship with money. It's a 5-week course, and it will do deep trauma healing as it comes to money. So it's an online modules, but there's live Zoom deep trauma healing with a small group of beautiful people and me, of course, and I will hold the space and do the healing sessions with people. And that will actually create a very different foundation from where you build your life. That's something that will start now. Well, it's open now. Yeah.
I love that. I'll make sure to put that in the show notes and for people to go ahead and be able to access that.
Yes.
Suzette, thank you so much for being here. I love talking to you. You are a whole vibe. And I hope you have the best day in the Netherlands.
Thank you so much for having me, Carolina. And I hope to meet you real soon. I really enjoyed our talk together.
All right. Thank you so much. Have a good day. It was an honor to connect and serve you this week. If you are a spiritually curious person wanting to conceive and heal blockages in your fertility, click the link in the episode description to learn more about the Fertility Foundation Collective. Until next time, my friend, know you are loved.